James had always considered himself someone who could make a difference, no matter how small. That rainy afternoon, he was hurrying home from work, his coat soaked and shoes squelching with every step, when he heard the faintest sound over the roar of passing cars and the pounding rain. At first, he thought it was a trapped animal, maybe a cat, but as he followed the sound, his heart sank. There, crouched under a rusted traffic sign, was a tiny, shivering creature. Its fur was dark and matted, its eyes wide and fearful, and one of its tiny legs bent at an awkward angle. James knelt down, cautiously extending his hand. The little thing whimpered, a soft, pitiful sound that cut through his chest. Instinctively, he wrapped the creature in his jacket, shielding it from the storm, and whispered soothing words. "You're safe now, little one. I've got you." He glanced around to see if anyone was watching. The street was empty, the kind of deserted that made him uneasy, but he pushed the fear aside. This tiny life depended on him. The vet's office wasn't far, and James ran, ignoring the rain that soaked him to the bone. Each step splashed through puddles, but the little creature remained clutched in his arms, trembling violently. At the door of the clinic, he was greeted by a receptionist whose eyes widened at the sight of the soaked man carrying a tiny bundle. "Is it badly hurt?" she asked, concern lacing her tone. James nodded, breathless. "I found it on the street, abandoned. Please, it's injured." Dr. Harper, a veterinarian with decades of experience, appeared immediately, examining the creature with professional efficiency. But as his gaze fell on the tiny animal, something shifted. His calm, practiced demeanor faltered. A faint pallor spread across his face, and his hands trembled slightly as he lifted it gently. James's heart skipped a beat. Is it serious?" he asked, panic creeping into his voice. Dr. Harper hesitated, swallowing hard. "This isn't a regular puppy," he finally said, his voice low, almost unsteady. James blinked, confusion and disbelief mingling in his mind. "Not a puppy. But, it's small, it's scared, it's obviously a puppy." The vet's eyes darted around, searching for words. "No, this is a baby fox. A rare species. Endangered. It shouldn't even be here." James froze, the weight of his actions suddenly crashing down. His good intentions had led him straight into a situation far more delicate and dangerous than he had ever imagined. James felt his stomach twist as Dr. Harper's words sank in. A rare, endangered fox. How could he have not known? His mind raced, replaying the moment he had found the tiny creature, thinking he was rescuing a helpless puppy from the storm. Now, that good intention seemed almost reckless. The vet's pale face and unsteady hands told him this was no ordinary situation. It was delicate, and one wrong move could mean disaster for the animal. Dr. Harper carefully laid the creature on a padded examination table, wrapping it in a warm, soft towel. The fox whimpered softly, its tiny body trembling, but it seemed to sense the care it was receiving. "We need to act fast, drive," Harper said, his voice firm but tense. "This species is critically endangered. Every single baby is precious. If we don't stabilize it and contact the wildlife authorities immediately, it might not survive." James nodded, guilt and anxiety warring within him. I didn't know. I just saw it and I thought I was helping." His voice was barely above a whisper. "You were helping, drive," Harper replied, softening slightly. "But you also need to understand that rare animals like this require specialized care. Any small mistake could be fatal. That's why the authorities need to be involved. They'll know the protocols, the diet, and the medical attention it needs to survive. You did the right thing by bringing it here first, though." James felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief that he hadn't harmed it yet, dread at the responsibility he had unintentionally taken on. He watched as Dr. Harper carefully assessed the tiny fox, checking its leg, its breathing, even the sheen of its fur, and he realized that this was bigger than any heroics he had ever imagined. He had stumbled into a situation that required patience, precision, and above all, humility. The vet pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the wildlife center now. They'll send a team trained to care for endangered species. Meanwhile, we keep it warm, hydrated, and calm. That's all we can do." James held his hands together, silently praying that he had done enough. Outside, the rain continued to pour, but inside the small clinic, time seemed to slow. Every passing second was critical. He had thought he was saving a puppy, but now he understood that the stakes were far higher. A tiny life balanced on the edge, fragile yet fighting to survive, and in his hands, he had unknowingly held the fate of something far more extraordinary than he had ever imagined. Within minutes, a specialized wildlife rescue team arrived, their uniforms marked with the emblem of the Endangered Species Program. Dr. Harper explained the situation in hurried whispers, and the team quickly assessed the tiny creature. James stepped back, feeling a mix of relief and lingering guilt. He had saved it from the rain, but now the professionals were taking over, and he could only hope he hadn't caused irreparable harm. One of the team members, a woman named Clara, knelt beside the small fox. Her experienced hands moved gently, checking the creature's pulse, breathing, and mobility. "You found it at just the right moment," she said softly to James. "Even a few more minutes in the storm could have been fatal. You did well by bringing it here immediately." James's chest tightened with emotion. Relief mingled with pride, but he still felt the weight of the mistake he had almost made. I thought it was a puppy," he admitted. "I didn't even know rare foxes existed here. I didn't mean to put it at risk." Clara smiled kindly. "Intentions matter. You acted out of compassion, and that's what counts. Now, we can do our part to ensure it survives and thrives." She gently lifted the fox into a custom-made, temperature-controlled carrier. Its tiny eyes blinked up at James, and he felt a pang of attachment. He had saved it, even if only temporarily, and that brief bond was something he would never forget. As the team prepared to transport the fox to a secure wildlife sanctuary, Drive, Harper handed James a small card. "They'll let you know how it's doing. This little one has a tough journey ahead, but thanks to you, it has a chance." James nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. He watched as the team carried the carrier out of the clinic, disappearing into the rainy afternoon. For a moment, the world felt both vast and fragile, a reminder of how small actions could ripple into life or death consequences. Later that evening, James received a call from the sanctuary. The fox was stable, its tiny legs slowly healing, and it was being carefully monitored. A rare smile spread across his face. What had started as a simple act of kindness had turned into a life-saving intervention for an endangered species. James realized something profound. True compassion often carried responsibility and unexpected consequences. What he had thought was just a rescue of a helpless puppy had become an extraordinary encounter with nature's delicate balance. In that moment, he understood that even a single act of care could ripple far beyond what anyone could predict. And sometimes, saving a life meant stepping into a world far bigger than your own.